Hi, everybody. This is Amanda with Metromark Realtors, and there's a lot going on right now with this coronavirus. And I thought today would be a good time to interview my friend and a loan officer, Scott Senner. Scott and I have been friends for a long time. We work together regularly. He's been in the business for 25 years, used to be a realtor, and is just super knowledgeable. So today I thought we would bring him in and just talk about what's going on right now and how different it is right now and kind of go from there. So, Scott,
Hey,
welcome.
thanks for calling me and giving me this chance to talk. So it's
Uh,
it's a crazy, it's an interesting time right now. There's challenges and opportunities.
it is. It is. So last month I was talking to you and it was a total different world. And last month, this time was a good time to refinance. That was a brief window and it's over. What's going on now?
Yeah, that's for sure. So the first week of March, the first 4 days was like the busiest time in the mortgage business ever, really. We did a, a lot of refinances. I mean, people took a lot of advantage of that. But then on March 13th is sort of when the world changed, when when the Thunder game I canceled. I mean, that was sort of like the water
Pivoting
coming over
point.
the bridge, because then the markets crashed, that the next day. And since then, I mean, the stock market's been all over the place, which has affected, obviously everyone's 401k, but I mean, on stuff that you and I deal with day to day. I mean, the mortgage market right now is just on a big roller coaster where we'll have rates that are real favorable one day and then not the next. And we've had multiple price changes, daily, which that rarely happens. So it's really been interesting. So
People that were under contract going into this whole thing have a locked in rate and nothing is changing for them, correct?
that's correct. So one thing they're going to want to make sure of, though, is they need to know when their lock expires, um, because most lenders have the ability to do what's called a lock extension.
Mhm.
So say you have a buyer that's closing on April 15th. At least that's a scheduled date, and the lock expires on the 15th. Well, more than likely, that buyer has a lock at an interest rate that's better than what they could get today.
Right.
So they don't want that lock to expire. But if it doesn't close on the 15th, their lender can extend it, but it's going to cost that buyer some money. And generally, that cost can be about 7 basis points, which is 0.07% of the loan amount. So for every $100,000, it's going to cost them, about $70 a day to extend that lock. So it can get kind of expensive pretty quick.
And the points across the board right now are things that people are needing to pay to get their interest rates approved.
Yeah. So right. So to give you an example, like 3 weeks ago, say you wanted to get an FHA loan and you could get it at 3.5%, and the lender was not going to charge any discount points. Okay. And a discount point is simply 1% of the loan amount that's paid up front. It's essentially upfront interest on a loan. In most cases, most buyers rarely ever pay discount points. It's usually not worth it to pay points. But in the market that we're in right now, that same 3.5% loan on an FHA loan is going to probably cost that buyer 2 points or maybe even 3, which basically makes it unaffordable. I mean, that essentially prices people out of the market. The reason for that, without getting too deep in the weeds, is the investors who buy mortgages right now are shying away from mortgages in general, but government loans especially, and even more so than that, if someone has a credit score less than 680, that FHA or VA loan is going to be prohibitively expensive right now.
Right.
Um,
And the minimum credit scores, they've increased. So what
for
were we
sure.
looking at a month ago?
580 was generally going to be the minimum that someone could get for an FHA loan. Right now, in our companies raised our minimum to 620. Other companies have raised it higher than that, and it's very likely that that's going to increase as well. It would not shock me if we're having this conversation 2 weeks from now and minimum credit score in FHA and VA 680.
Right.
I mean, I see that happening, which is unfortunate because that's going to be a lot of people that can't qualify.
Same story for conventional or a
No,
little?
conventional loans, for the most part, anybody who was getting conventional loan had score under 680, FHA was going to be the better option.
Mhm.
Now conventional will be the only option. The problem that they're going to have is if they're not putting 20% down, the mortgage insurance is going to be high.
Right.
So, to summarize, folks with credit scores below 680, probably at least temporarily, it's going to be more expensive to buy a house. They'll still be able to do it, but it's going to be more expensive.
Right. And I know we don't know what's going to happen here, but people that this affects, are they better pausing and trying again in the fall, or do we see this extending? Totally unknown, right?
Well, it is unknown, but most industry observers expect both rates and pricing to get better really over the next 30 days. The reason for that is because the investment market still has a very high uncertainty level with what's going to happen to the overall economy as all these businesses and people are out of work, and we've had the highest unemployment numbers we've ever had in the history of the United States right now. So nobody really knows how that's going to affect just the economy in general. So until people who buy mortgages gain some clarity on that and know how all these unemployment numbers are going to affect the economy in general, we're still going to have probably high prices.
Right.
And most people think at 30 days there should be some sort of leveling off of both the virus as well as the effects on the economy. So no, I don't think people need to wait and plan on buying in fall. They just need to be listening to their realtor, listening to their lender, and saying, hey, check rates for me every 3 days and see where we're at.
And a lot of people that need to buy or sell need to do it right now. They're relocating, they have a family situation, maybe they lost their job and need to downsize. It just lots of different things. So some people can't wait. People that end up locking in a rate that's not exactly what they wanted to could always turn around and refinance later on.
Absolutely, yeah. Which you just brought something up that's interesting, is that most people maybe don't realize that you cannot actually lock an interest rate until you have a home under contract.
Right.
So
Otherwise, it's pre-approved.
Yeah.
And that's always changing too. Okay, let's talk a little bit about appraisals. So that's all changed a little bit. I'll let you kind of explain it. It had changed with FHA and VA, and now conventional loan and appraisals are on board too, and just during this COVID-19 outbreak. So I'll let you take the reins on that, Scott.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the good things that's happened of all this is, with home appraisals, an appraiser's always needed to do an interior inspection of the house since time immemorial. I mean, it's always been the case. Right now, we're in a situation where a seller or a homeowner, is not necessarily real keen on letting total strangers come in the house. So Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae, Freddie Mac all realized that if appraisers could not get into a home, our real estate market was going to completely stop and dead in its tracks. So they did change their guidelines on appraisals temporarily to allow for an appraiser to only do a exterior inspection and what's called a drive-by appraisal without having to do an interior inspection. The appraiser is probably still going to want to have the seller take some interior photos and send those to him or her, which will be fine, but
and this is really where a realtor can step in and help. And we do this all the time with appraisers. We go and we meet them when they're there, but we also show them comps. We talk about the lot size and improvements made on the property. If the home is remodeled and they do a drive-by, they're not going to know, and they're not going to be able to price accordingly. So really, always, but even more now, the realtor and appraiser relationship is really important.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, because you're right. Drive-by appraisals will not take into account remodeled homes. So yeah, having the realtor involved in this process is even more important than it always has been.
Right. Excuse me, I had a message pop up. Okay, so down payment assistance, first-time home buyers. they can still have the rare opportunity that they always get, but
Right.
have a little bit more of a limited situation because of what we already talked about, right?
Right. At the moment, the down payment assistance programs are a good option for first-time home buyers, because those interest rates are actually still really solid. They're not having a lot of discount points associated with those. So if a buyer is able to qualify for one of those programs, that's something they should jump on like right now, because there has been talk that that's probably going to go away, at least temporarily.
Mhm.
Once these investors who buy bond or down payment assistance loans, um, know those are riskier loans to begin with, and
Mhm.
they're going to start pricing them that way, which means rates are going to go up and probably go up a lot. Right now they haven't. So if someone's still on the fence about thinking about buying a house and they're a first time buyer, now is actually a really, really good time to get that locked in and
Right,
find something.
right. And there's still homes coming on the market every day. Our
Hmm.
inventory is a little bit lower than it normally is, but real estate is still active. It's considered an essential business. We as realtors aren't trying to press buying and selling on you right now because we are all in quarantine and just trying to do best for our community. But we understand there's people that want to buy and sell. I'm doing a virtual open house this weekend. Um, I have taken buyers on virtual tours, and then if they're really interested in the house, usually the seller will let us in.
Hmm.
When we go in, I carry a Lysol wipe. I ask the sellers to leave all the lights on and the doors open, um, and just wipe down as we go. So it's still out there happening. I have a search site I'll post on the comments here. But if somebody
Hmm.
sees something they really love, it could be a great opportunity to buy.
Do you see, actually, let me ask you a question. So, I mean, do you see inventory possibly going up over the next 30 days as people maybe start thinking that, well, now's a good time to sell because they're maybe uncomfortable about their job situation or, you know, whatever? I mean, is that something you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to continue to increase from where we are right now. Like the last couple of weeks, it's been a little bit slower, but every time I look at the hot sheets in the morning, I should have grabbed the numbers for you guys today, but houses are going on the market because people need to buy and sell. They
Hmm.
need to get into that school zone. They need to be closer to their job. And so I think people are getting a little bit more comfortable is maybe not the right word, but used to this idea that we're going to be working virtually for a little bit. And I think people are going to continue listing their houses and buying quickly. I've heard from several investors this week that are ready to buy right now
Wow.
because it's a good opportunity. And then also real estate, when the stock market's so uncertain, real estate is something wonderful
Hmm.
to have in your portfolio.
Actually, just thought of something else, because our market over the last 6 months to a year, especially in like that 125 to maybe 250 price point, has been so competitive, and it's been really, really hard for people to get offers accepted because houses will have multiple offers and stuff.
Right. Every time,
If
multiple offers gone
so
just like
really, yes, I mean, if someone's thinking about buying now and they're okay with looking at homes in this environment, they're probably gonna have less competition, to find those same houses. I mean,
right.
from that standpoint, it'd be a really good time to look at
It
houses, I
is. It
think.
is. It is. And the real estate contract is really buyer friendly. So it gives the people time to go in there and take
Hmm.
a deeper look themselves and inspect the property,
Yeah.
obviously.
Hmm.
But yeah, selling too, because inventory is low and that people need to move, houses are selling. I mean, I wrote an offer yesterday on a house and there's activity going on for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
So that's
So
good.
yeah.
And Scott and I are here for everybody. If anybody ever has any questions, Scott, I'm going to put all of your contact information in the comments below, but
Okay.
how can people reach out to you?
Well, my office is in Edmond. I'm on 33rd and Santa Fe. In Edmond, we lend statewide. 90% of stuff that I do is here in Oklahoma City. The rest of it's on cabins in Broken Bow.
Mhm.
Um, so if you're buying a luxury cabin in Broken Bow, I'm your guy down there too. So,
Yes, he is.
um, but no, we can meet in person. We do a lot of virtual meetings. We always have, and now we're doing even more. in the environment that we're in, on the lending side of things, almost everything's done electronically anymore. So there's really no issues with that. And
God and I were talking about that. We're like, this whole Zoom, it's not new to us. We're glad
right.
we have this training behind us
Yeah,
more frequently now.
very comfortable with it.
So, and Scott's great to get back to you nights, weekends, whatever. He is a great guy and somebody that I always add to my list for buyers.
Awesome.
So, well, thank you. Do you have anything else to wrap up?
I don't think so. Thanks, Amanda. This is so fun. I appreciate the chance to talk.
Well, we will do it again in a couple of weeks and do a maybe shorter little market update. But thank you, and I will talk to you later on.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.